Good morning, fellow beautiful, messy, imperfectly perfect human. I hope all is really well with you today. I've been kind of procrastinating doing this video today because there's some real anxiety in me and sort of fear around doing these videos, and I was trying to tune in as to what that is all about. And I observed in me, I touched upon this yesterday, but I basically observed in me a want to rehearse what I'm going to say so that I can quality control and say, is this of value? Is this worthwhile for people to actually hear? Noticing again, and the same thing as yesterday, noticing the that's the cat. Noticing this want to, or this fear of forgetting something good I've thought to say, And I was tuning into it a bit earlier, and there's this element also of really worrying about people's opinion, and not trusting that what I'm going to say in the moment will just be fine, and that's okay. And ultimately I'm doing this for me primarily. So it's really relieving in those moments where I just said to myself, it's okay, just be yourself, and whatever comes is what's meant to come in the moment. And there's so many fears around this, like doing this and sharing it with the world. But what I'm noticing is that the more I just sort of surrender to allow what comes to come in the moment, it's like I'm allowing myself to trust my future self. I said this yesterday, but it's just been so reiterated this morning for me. And it builds a real level of self-love and self-respect when I value what I have to say, rather than worrying about whether this is worthy enough to be shared, because I guess I spent a lot of my life not thinking that my opinions are really valuable or important or worthy to be voiced. There's this really painful narrative I've had about myself. And as I learn to love and accept myself and allow more of myself and more of this human experience, I feel like I have much more self-respect, and this allows me to trust myself more and trust my future self more. I'm also sitting with quite a lot of discomfort. Something that I haven't mentioned yet is this chronic pain and this chronic gut issues that I struggle with. And something that I've really noticed is when I get a particular flare-up and it's really intense in the gut, it just is like my mind is just riddled with so many more thoughts, like fearful thoughts, which is, it's almost impossible to not have them when my tummy or my guts are not in a good way. So, and I thought, God, should I not do it today? I woke up this morning and the phone was on 1%. It hadn't been charging overnight, and I was like, oh, it's a sign. I need to just, I guess I wanted to back out because that fear was there. And also the microphones have come through, and it's quite windy today, and I thought it would be better yeah, to film with the microphone so you can hear me a bit better. I hope we can, hope the sound comes through here all right. But yeah, having problems with the microphone, it doesn't seem to be working. So yeah, there's been a bit of a delay and a procrastination about recording this video, but I've made a commitment to myself to just record these videos each day, regardless of the content, the quality of the content, or if anyone else actually watches it or takes anything from it. Yeah, just as a commitment to myself, because commitment's been a challenge for me in life, and I just, want to just build something and be consistent with it, and that I've wanted to for a long time express and share a lot of these observations that I'm making about myself. But yes, welcome to another video on this new channel, The Big Sigh. And what I want to really do with this is invite you to slow down with me and let go of needing to discover information, needing to be somewhere else, needing to escape from the present moment, and to just really rest and be for a bit. Because I guess what I've observed in myself through lots of meditation over the years, and I've really been tuning into it recently, is this dynamic of really wanting to, there's so many different layers of me trying to escape the present moment, right? Or whatever's alive in me in that moment. And it's so subtle, it's so hard to become aware of, but I've really tuned in with it and had moments where I've really been fully there's no energy about me that wants to be anywhere else or do anything else or escape mentally. There's so many different types of forms of escape for me. That may be food is a big one, particularly with this discomfort, this pain that I live with. God, food is like a distraction away from it, and I've comfort ate a lot. Food, going on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, that sort of distraction, even just physical activity to distract me from what's alive in me in the discomfort. And obviously there's a very tangible discomfort there with the physical pain, but I've also noticed it's exactly the same dynamic when there's something emotional or spiritual that I'm struggling with, and that may be quite unconscious. So it could be, I don't know, a conversation with someone that I need to have that I'm procrastinating about, and whenever I think about it, actual physical sensations in the body come up and they're really uncomfortable. And so actually, instead of dealing with the problem and having that conversation or whatever it is, in the moment I feel this discomfort and I want to escape from the discomfort, so I turn to my vices or whatever, and a lot of this is just completely unconscious, so yeah, I'm really trying at the moment to just be here and turn towards and just sort of sit alongside the discomfort and the stress and the pain, and not necessarily do anything about it, but just say, it's kind of like a big sigh. That's one. It's kind of like just a big sigh and say, okay, I'm not going to try and escape anymore. I'm just going to be here. I'm not going to imagine where I need to go during the day. I'm not going to think about my to-do list. I'm literally just going to turn towards this discomfort, this pain, this present moment, this constantly unfolding present moment, and I'm just going to continuously be with it. I do have a sort of issue with the phrase present moment, because I guess to me, a moment is like, has a start and an end. Oh, that's a moment. Whereas my lived experience, or my understanding of this mad human experience that we're all going through, and you know, not just humans, this conscious, anyway, it's perfectly constantly unfolding. It's a process, but as soon as what I used to do when I tried to become present, get into the present moment, is basically I take a snapshot of the present moment and then start thinking about the snapshot and go off into my head again. Whereas what's been so nourishing for me and such a breakthrough has been realizing that it's just a constant unfolding process. And instead of trying to think about what's happening in the now, it's just allowing myself to continuously flow in the now. So yeah, I've been trying to think of a better word than present moment, but I guess that's the traditional common phrase, so it's easily understandable. But yeah, maybe hit me up in the comments if you've got any suggestions. Yeah, and that's just reminded me, if you want to subscribe and like and comment the videos, you're so welcome to do so. It'd be really, I'd be really appreciative. Just so that, you know, these videos can reach more people, I guess, if they help. It's completely an invitation, no pressure, of course, but yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice to reach more people with these videos. And also, I'm just remembering that I haven't invited you to join me in a Big Sigh. So yeah, I was planning to start with that, but you know, this is how these things unravel sometimes. So yeah, maybe just with that intention of really just letting go of performing or trying to be anywhere else, feeling like you need to be any different from how you're showing up right now, and we can just drop the shoulders as we sigh out, and we can just really ground and allow our weight to fall, you know, and just let go and surrender. And sort of one thing I sort of say to myself when I'm doing this is, you know, I give up trying to perform. I give up trying to be something I'm not, and this is me. Take it or leave it, you know. So it's with that kind of energy that I really invite you to take a big sigh with me. So I'm going to take a nice big in-breath. Yeah, and what I thought about actually just then is how the thought occurred to me as I was, you know, speaking earlier, that this feels a bit performative in some way. This doesn't feel that authentic, maybe. But during that sigh, it just occurred to me to accept that bit too, you know, to allow that bit. And I really have this strong desire to try and remain authentic and real. But also, sometimes what's real is that I'm too nervous to be real. So it's allowing that in as well, you know, allowing that in as part of the journey and our humanness, our messy humanness. And this is very much a work in progress for me, but I feel like I'm getting there. And this, again, I'm also conscious of repeating myself in other videos, but sometimes what comes alive in the moment is it's here for a reason, and maybe it needs to be restated. So yeah, I mean, I forgot what I was going to say now. I often have I go on tangents and then I forget how to get back, and sometimes that's quite frustrating. But yeah. This is the sort of scary thing about not having anything planned to say. Because, yeah, you just have to trust what comes. I guess the main sort of theme of what I'm talking about really is trust. And it's a really interesting topic, trust, because I think it requires an insane amount of courage to trust what comes, because it feels very unsafe in many ways for me, you know. I think trust is the path to more peace for me. My mind is very constantly like trying to check for stuff and make sure we're safe in so many different ways, and rehearse things, you know, like rehearse social interactions and reflect on social interactions that I've had in the past, or actions that I've done in the past, and think, God, did people like that? Or you know, how could I do that better? How could people like me more? Yeah, which I really feel is just an innate part of the human condition in many ways. And our brain, our mind, it seems to me, is like constantly trying to tell us how important it is to deal with this problem that it's currently thinking about, in an obsessive kind of way. And it's like, no, if you don't deal with it, if you don't deal with this, like, disaster is gonna happen. So we really need to prioritize this. And that was like during my depressive phases and my super anxious, socially anxious periods, they still come up. That's what my brain is doing. It's like obsessing over what I need to do to change myself. So you can sort of imagine the terror that the idea of just doing nothing about all of that stuff would bring up, right? Which makes trust so much harder. It makes trust so much harder, because it feels so exposing, so vulnerable, you know. It feels so you can't guarantee your safety, you know, when you've prepared something, when you've thought about it and you've got a plan, then it feels safe in some way, because you know you've thought through the consequences and all of this kind of stuff. Whereas if you're just letting go and allowing what comes to come, allowing what happens to happen, then you haven't got any of that assurance. It's just like, I have no idea how people are going to take this. But, you know, with the more that I've been able to lean into that trust and just allow what comes to come, the more respect and reverence I have for myself. And it's kind of like a process of choosing myself and honoring what's actually real in the moment, rather than having this prepared thing and that feeling safe. It's unsafe, but it's authentic. And similar to what I was talking about yesterday about vulnerability, I've had such deeper, richer and more authentic connections when I've learnt to just trust that what comes is fine, it's perfect. And even if it's messy, that's okay too. Like, being a human is to be messy, or to be messy is to be human. We're not perfect, and I am definitely a recovering perfectionist, like I said yesterday. And it's a really really perfectionism comes from that same terror, that same trying to guarantee that what I say, what I do, what I think will be acceptable to people and okay, and it won't result in me experiencing pain or like a backlash from others, like a response from others. There's a certain element of it within, we're social creatures, and there's a certain element of us. Obviously, we can't just completely disregard everyone else. There's a balance to be struck, and when we're children, that's like our main focus is to try and figure out the social norms, say what keeps us safe. And so much of trauma is about the response that we've received to certain behaviors. So we received, anger in response to a certain type of behavior. So then in our head we say, okay, let's make a rule. That anger resulted in real pain for me, so I'm never going to do that particular thing ever again, or I'm going to only do that around certain people, or whatever. As children, it's like we're trying to find all these rules to keep us safe, but again, we keep these rules into adulthood when they no longer serve us. And yeah, I'm realizing how much I'm repeating myself from yesterday. And I'm trying to, be okay with that and allow that. Because that's what I need to say in the moment, That's what this human obviously needs to just re-express. But just to observe the fear that's coming up right now for me is, God, maybe I don't have much to say. Maybe it's kind of embarrassing. I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. And I haven't got much of value to contribute. So it's just interesting to observe these fears in us. And I'm really enjoying how much I'm noticing a lot of these things recently, which is a huge difference to my old awareness even just a year ago or a few years ago. I feel like recently I'm really observing more about what's going on in my brain, and and I don't mean to say that to show off. It's just to communicate how valuable it is to be able to watch something happen in the moment. How valuable it has been for me. See it and just observe, reflect on what's just happened, and not necessarily get caught up in it, right? And something that I feel like has been a huge breakthrough for me recently is basically seeing this human being in the third person, basically, like treating myself, or this human that has been bestowed upon me. I'm sort of the captain of this ship, right? I've got this body, and I've got this human mind, this human heart, and I'm actually not in a huge amount of control over it. And what I've also realized is it's a product of nature as much as anything else is, It's not like our parents constructed us. We literally were birthed from nature. We are a part of all of this. We're a part of nature. And so there's this sort of reverence and respect that I have for this human being when I look at it from that perspective, kind of from the third person, as if it's not me. And I guess this aligns with a lot of what meditation teachers and spiritual teachers talk about when they talk about not identifying with the thoughts. It's just like a big misconception in meditation that a lot of beginners struggle with, and I did too, was imagining that we need to quieten the mind, and that's the job. But that couldn't be further from the truth, really. A quiet mind comes after many, many years. It's just like a result of what happens when you practice this thing, it's not the goal, it's not what we're trying to achieve. But I appreciate that a lot of people want a quiet mind because their mind is so busy. So they sit down and they think, okay, I need to quieten my mind, but my mind keeps racing because we don't have control of our minds. You know, these thoughts come whether we like them or not. And so there's this like added tension of being like, oh my God, I should be able to quieten my mind, but I can't, and it's going crazy. So I'm rubbish at this. And then we have all this added layer of attaching ourselves to these thoughts, right? So what meditation teachers talk about is just allowing the thoughts to come and go without making any meaning out of them, or attaching to them, identifying with them. And for me, this concept of seeing this human being in the third person has really, really helped me with that, because it's basically, oh, it's this human, it's the nature of this human. Oh, these thoughts are just occurring to this human. This human has been through all this conditioning, and now he's just got this programming, I guess. And my role is to just love this human and allow him to be messy and allow all the dark, shadowy stuff, you know, the jealousy, the anger, all the stuff that I've not been allowing. Because in some ways it's not me. And maybe just to touch on what I think is actually me, the only thing that's constant in this experience for me is a continuous awareness, and everything else sits within that continuous awareness, right? I have a body, yes, but if I lose a leg, is the leg me still, even after it's dissolved into, after it's decayed over many years and it's dissolved into the earth? All of our cells regenerate. We've got completely different cells. Our thoughts come and go. We can believe one thing in one moment about our identity, and then we can believe the exact opposite the next moment. So they can't be true, right? It's all transient, and I guess anything that is transient can't be who we really are. So I get this sense of who I really am is the watcher, the witness that sits behind it all. And that I guess I could say is me. But all of these identities and stories that I've built for myself are just that. They're just choices, they're stories. I've chosen to say, okay, this is who I am. I'm going to categorize myself in this way and that way and that way, and this is who I am. I'm a piano player, or I am, whatever. I am a white, heterosexual, 34-year-old male, They're all just they're all constructs, really. They're all stories, and it's so easy to forget that we've just chosen to identify in that way, because around us it's so entrenched that it's just the norm to talk to identify with these stories. But I found so much peace in moments where I've been able to let go of the identity and to identify with this human being in the third person like it's not me. It brings about a lot of peace. It's not easy. It's really not easy. And in many ways, I'm wondering, and maybe you can message in the comments your opinions on this, but I'm wondering if the role of the mind is purely, maybe not 100% actually, but maybe the role of the mind is to safety, to create identities, because then we know who we are and there's a sense of control, there's a sense of safety. Whereas if we let go and we trust and we don't decide to attach to these stories and identities about ourselves and others, we don't make judgments, then we're just like entirely at the mercy of the universe. And that is a terrifying prospect. That's so exposed. But that is really where, that's, for me, that is aligning with the Tao, in the Chinese talk about Taoism. This universe, I guess. You can't really name the Tao, it's a thing, if you know Taoism. But that's where, like, trusting is like a muscle. It's like you dare to trust that things will be okay without preparing, or without analysing, or whatever it is. And then you realise, oh, that kind of was okay this time. And then you stretch it a little bit more, and you trust yourself, and you trust your future self a little bit more. And then over time, it's like the mind feels safer, so it doesn't need to prepare as much. It doesn't need to, fear so much. So, and with that trust, it brings more self-respect, self-love. I mean, that's my experience anyway. It's brought so much more reverence to myself and this human being. And peace, because I'm not fighting against the tide. I'm not feeling like I need to be a certain way. It's really working towards unconditional love. And to me, what that is like accepting things for exactly how they are, right? And it's very rare that children receive that from, caregivers and parents when they grow up. It's very rare for anyone to be able to purely give love unconditionally. But I think, to me, that's what love is. It is just allowing something to be exactly as it is, without needing to change it, or, remove it, or get rid of it, add to it. Yeah, to me, that's what true love is, and compassion. And it's something I'm trying to do and learning. It's a hard process, because a lot of things that occur within us are scary. One of the things I find really scary in me is like the sort of beast-like quality or part of my nature. I'm quite scared of the ferociousness in me at times, because I'm afraid that that's going to hurt people, or that's going to make people scared of me. That sort of animalistic, that we all have, but it's scary, that sort of thing inside us. Well, for me, feels really scary. But again, it's just part of this dance that we're all in. It's part of this movie, and it's not something we can control. These things arise in us, and then how we respond to those things that arise in us are what dictates our peace or our suffering. Because if we can allow things, even these ferocious impulses, we can notice them and not hate on ourselves or make any stories about it, or say, oh, this makes you an awful person, you're a bad person, you need to keep that under wraps because you might hurt someone and then you might get abandoned from the tribe, whatever it is, If we can just allow that to rise in us and feel it fully and not do anything with it, just allow it to be there without trying to change it or fix it, it will just come and it will go. And this is the transience of life, This is the nature of life. We are in this very present moment. It's constantly unfolding, and the reality is we have no fucking idea what's going to happen next. We really have no clue about. We can make assumptions, or we I don't know that this sofa's going to hold me. I don't actually know that for the next few minutes. It could just collapse, right, for whatever reason. But I assume that it will, you know. And we kind of need to do that, I guess, to survive. We can't just constantly, or maybe that's what enlightenment is, just being constantly surrendered and not making any assumptions at all. I'm not sure. I don't know what enlightenment is, because funnily enough, I'm not actually enlightened. But yeah, my point being is this whole experience is just constant. It's completely out of our control. We have so much less control than we think. We have so much less control over ourselves than we think. And that kind of links in with what I was saying earlier about just treating this human being as like a separate person in some ways. Like, I call it my beautiful, sacred human being, you know? This human that just does stuff, acts in certain ways, and, you know? I have much less control than I think. And I then start beating myself up sometimes because I imagine that I should be able to control it. Like, why did I do that? Why did I behave in that way? That was such an embarrassing thing to say. That was such a stupid thing to say. But in reality, actually, I had no control over that. And imagining that I did is causing me a lot more suffering. So yeah, trust, surrender, letting go of control, observing the fears in the mind as they arise, and not needing to necessarily do anything with them, just allowing them to pass through. And the way to do that is to not identify with them or make stories about them, and to treat them as if they're just a part of nature, you know. And that's what's really helped me anyway. So yeah, that may resonate with you, in that, or that may not make sense. You know, we're all on different stages of the journey. And we're all very different. So yeah, it might not be what you want to hear, but I really hope you do take something from that. Because these realizations have brought me an awful lot of peace. So I hope and trust that you'll get what you need from what I'm saying. And that feels like a really nice time to wrap up. So yeah, sending you really heartfelt love, hoping that life is not too challenging for you at the moment, and you're navigating it with skill, and you're growing. Yeah, and just hoping for so much peace for you and for everyone. And thank you so much for staying with me for this long, for these rambles. You've got this far. I really appreciate it. Again, if you could like and subscribe and comment if you feel called to, then I would be so grateful. I really would be. Yeah, so thank you if you've done that already. And if you feel called to share this with anyone, then yeah, that would be an honour for me. That would be amazing to feel that. So yeah, thank you. Wishing you well, and see you tomorrow. Happy humaning. That's very cold tea.